Hi, welcome to my channel. I'm Laurie, and if you're one of my subscribers, thank you so much for being part of my community. And if you're new here, welcome. Today I'm going to do something a little different than a how-to. My cat's going to help me. I'm going to do a tour of one of my sketchbooks. I was a high school teacher for years and did a lot of studies on how to entice students and get them to build a positive sketchbook habit. And when I went to get my doctoral studies, I decided to do my dissertation on sketchbooks. One of the things that's unique about my dissertation is that it is, in fact, a series of sketchbooks. So I presented it as a series of sketchbooks. And in order to propose to my committee that this would be a rigorous and also interesting approach to research, I did a proposal. And in that proposal, I did a practice journal. So this is what I want to show you today. It outlines an approach to looking at sketchbooks, and in particular, some of the unique aspects of sketchbooks that I was really interested in exploring. And it does that in a series of tiny books. So let me get this camera turned around and we'll get started. Okay, this is the book we're going to look at today. This is an altered book. So I took a contemporary painting. It was an American painting book, and I created a display out of it. Let's take a look at this. At the very beginning, what I was interested in is kind of what we use our sketchbooks for in planning. And so I was very much interested in the different ways that we use a book for planning, observation, and reflection. So this is kind of just a quick page here. These are some of the artists that I looked at, sketchbooks of, and a picture of my own hand that I had drawn. And these were really the kind of the parameters of my study, kind of the who, what, when, where, how, and how we could look at something that is a sketchbook and the range at which it becomes no longer a sketchbook. So for example, on the who was like, who is this? Who is the audience for this? Is this for myself or is this for others? And the farther it goes away for being for myself, it becomes less of a sketchbook and more of an art book. Same thing here, the where do I do this? The idea, the wonderful thing about sketchbooks is that they're primarily portability, but the farther that we get away from something being portable, we have less accessibility to the actual book to work in. So this page kind of goes over those parameters. I'm also interested in the definitions that we're going to look at with sketchbooks. So here is the main part of my book here. What I've done with this book is I've cut the center pages out and constructed a grid work, and then I've created these tiny books that go inside of each one of these little kind of pockets here. If you're interested in how to create a book like this, let me know down in the comments, because I would be happy to do a tutorial on how to create a book like this. I mean, again, you can see this is the vast majority of this book, which is very thick, and it's been kind of carved out here in the center. So I'm going to go look at a couple of these, or I'm going to look at all these books and talk a little bit about what are the aspects of the study that I was interested in exploring. And part of that would have been, I'm going to start with this little book here, kind of the history of sketchbooks. I think most of us know that Leonardo da Vinci was known for his books. In fact, they sold for, I think Bill Gates bought one for some massive amount of millions of dollars. And so what I had done here is create a small little leather-bound sketchbook. I aged the pages, and I took images, including some of his backwards writing or his mirror writing, and created some of those books, or recreated some of the ideas, and also looking at some of the words of his own, his biological studies. What else do we have in here? There's something here. Some of the mathematics that he did, character studies, some of the text, plans for domes, etc. So this was kind of a fun way to sort of provide a little bit of homage to Leonardo da Vinci and his kind of well-known sketchbooks. The next book that I'm going to take a look at is this one. This is a book made of envelopes. So each one of these pages of this tiny book is an envelope. And this is a study of Vincent van Gogh's letters to his brother Theo. And what Van Gogh did in the letters to his brother Theo was document the work that he was creating with images. And so these are some kind of replicas of some of the letters that Vincent wrote to his brother Theo throughout his artistic career. And along with that, some of the documentation of his works in progress at the time. So he would do small sketches and write to his brother about the progress and the works that he was doing. So this serves as a bit of a sketchbook. He also did keep sketchbooks, but I just thought that the correspondence with the images and sort of talking through his process was really fascinating. And I think the dialogue was part of, here's a replica of one of the pages. It was just a fascinating study, a character study, in how sketchbooks can be a device for communication. Here's some more examples of his letters. And so again, you can see that he's discussing them, showing what his drawing is, any of his technical challenges. He used this as a way to kind of talk with his brother about his work. The next book that I want to take a look at would be this one right here. And this one, I look at the work of Pablo Picasso. Picasso left over 200 sketchbooks when he died. And what I found fascinating about Picasso, again, is his studies of how his ideas developed over time. This is an accordion book here. And that's one of the things I liked about this, is each one of these is a different type of binding, and I'll talk about those. But I was particularly interested in his progress through the painting, one of his larger masterpieces, Les Demoiselles d'Avignon. And within there, how he took one figure and how that figure evolved over time to become this kind of finished image. But he had all kinds of explorations within his earlier sketches. And I just found that him having a discussion with himself was fabulous and really fascinating. What I was interested in as part of my study is, how does the creative process work? This is a small, what we call this, Coptic stitch binding. And in here, this is some of the research that I had done, some of the studies that I had done about the process of creating. So I wrote out my plan of how I did this actual book here. I wrote out my plan of how this actual book here developed, and how I might have planned with the sizes of each piece. And so that was kind of being transparent about my creative process. But I'm also very interested in how ideas develop over time. And there is this kind of an idea of the creative process as a linear kind of idea, that we have our first insight, aha, and then we do some preparation and we think about our idea. We might illuminate that idea or kind of develop that idea, and then we have this sort of aha moment at the end, and we create a finished product, which is very linear. And honestly, although that's a very simplistic idea, I think what's more fascinating to me was this idea that we had many ideas, and that we might think about those ideas and think about the problems and sort of work through those multiple times, and spend a lot more time here in this kind of incubation period time. And this is where I think sketchbooks are the most useful. And then at some point we might have an aha moment of one of these many ideas that we may or may not carry out to fruition, you know, to the final finished idea. But what I was interested in is this part, the part where we think of things and where we can continue to develop those ideas. So my my reworking of this simplistic notion of the creative process and really focusing on this part where we keep the ideas flowing and it becomes very fluid, I suppose. And this idea of just reworking and being in the creative problem solving area, not so much interested in the finished product, although these are of course finished products, but this is kind of the focus of my study. So this little book has like discussions and thoughts about the creative process itself. The next one I would take a look at will be this one right here. This is a fun little case-bound book. So it has a spine, front and back covers. These, by the way, are handmade papers. This one and this one are papers that I painted. So those were part of it too. These are some of the references that I looked at during my studies. And so this would be my lit review, so to speak, the review of the literature of what has been done. And so each one of these colors kind of represents one of my research sources. And so this is just a very fun, illuminated way to create a bibliography for my study. So that's kind of, it was, again, fun to create a book and to do something in a visual manner. The next book that I want to take a look at is this one. And this book here is, these two books, actually, there's two small ones here. There have been a lot of studies on children's sketchbooks and then also high school, which is what I taught. So I was very interested in high school students. And so this is a replica of what a high school sketchbook may look like. It's got the little wire binding here. They do studies. They do like, observational studies, line drawings to kind of develop skills. Kids love to draw eyes. Here's a tiger eye that kind of represents that. They do like studies out in the world from life. They also do a lot of planning, and one of the most common things they have to plan is mat cutting, again, life studies of different types of things. And so this is to be representative of a high school student's sketchbook, some figure studies. I taught a metals class, and so here they are like practicing their designs here. This one, this very simple one, is a elementary sketchbook, and these kind of approaches here, and I've got another one to show you in here. These kind of approaches here are a little bit more of a the thing about young kids is that they will create a lot of sketchbooks. They will make multiple books because they go through them so quickly. So this has some examples of children's art, and these are actual from children's works. So there are copies of portraits of their teacher, perhaps, some of their own drawings, their inventions, things that students in lower grades are typical of doing. And these are, like I said, these images are from actual children's sketchbooks. And this book is made from a cereal box because, again, kids go through these so fast that purchasing sketchbooks is tough. So making something so simple as a piece of yarn or string and some copy paper punched holes with a quick hard cover makes it easier for the kids to make these accessible sketchbooks because they may in 1 year make 6 or 7 of them, whereas a high school kid will rarely finish theirs. So those are some like K-12 examples. I believe this is just a blank book. Yes, this is just another example of, this is Japanese side stitching, kind of the blank book ready to be worked in. A little intimidating because of all those blank pages. Part of the process was come up with, in my research study, was to come up with a definition or a list of terms. And so these are my, this is part of an old dictionary, Webster's dictionary. And these are some of the words that I needed to use or kind of explain what I meant by portability, what I mean by planning. This is a flag book. So it opens up with the tabs kind of going in alternating ways, which is really kind of fun. But this was a way to sort of reach out and talk about some of the language that I was going to use in my studies: play, primordial, experiment, reflection. So this is my list of terms. Let's see, we've looked at the creative process. What I was also interested in at the time was how sketchbooks have evolved over time. So we looked at the Da Vinci sketchbook here from back in the Renaissance, the early Renaissance, and kind of some contemporary uses. But what about the future? How do we communicate, and how do we use other media as our inspiration? And so this is a tiny laptop, and what I made it out of is a hard plastic case that I had to search for the right size, right, to fit in here. I went to the drugstore and looked at like makeup, and found one that I could empty the piece out and make this into my little laptop. And what I wanted to explore here was kind of a newer trend in the digital age of posting things online. And I looked at a couple of artists that used the internet as their sketchbook. And so these are some screenshots of different pages of artists that documented their work online in visual, like some quick photographs, and posting their daily, this was actually called, this is Danny Gregory, and he had like a daily update that he would draw his sketches and then post those so people could sort of share those, which brings me to the audience kind of aspect of like, who is this sketchbook for? I mean, this was a really nice branching of his own personal, I mean, he did these in a physical sketchbook, but the way that he shared that made it open to an audience so that we could kind of watch his progress. It's always been kind of interesting to me to look into people's sketchbooks. And so this was kind of the idea of like, here's how I see sketchbooks in all these different kind of aspects. Here's what we look at as practice. Here is kind of pushing some of the earlier boundaries of how we communicate our sketchbooks, how we use those to rewrite our ideas. I can go back to this first page here and look at my ideas of planning, reflection, and observation. And communication is kind of one of the other keys here. Like, why do we make books? So this little piece, this book here of tiny books was my proposal for my dissertation, and my committee was very excited and very happy with this because this sort of got the idea that this was a rigorous study, but also very artistic and engaging. And again, the interactivity, a part of it was part of what I wanted to do. I want sketchbooks like Danny Gregory or like Vincent van Gogh to be a source of communication. I have other artists that I looked at that use their sketchbooks as a form of communication, and those would be in my references here. But I wanted to share this book because this one has always been kind of fascinating to other people when I share it with my students or I share it with other groups. I think part of it is we love tiny things, and I think this little format is kind of cool. So again, if you're interested in me doing a tutorial on how to create kind of this open up book, I'm thinking about creating a book like this for another project that I'm doing. If you're interested, make a comment. I would love to hear from you about what you might be interested in. I would like to do more sketchbook tours. I have my dissertation here. We have 5 books, 4, 2, let me see, I gotta find the other ones. Book number 3 here, book 3, 2, 3, 4, and then there's 5 and 1 in here in this pile somewhere. Anyway, I would love to walk through my dissertation because these tell a story. This is book 1. And so this is a little preview of some of the sketchbook tours that I'll be doing in the future. Here's book number 5. So this right here was my dissertation. I mean, it's also published and you can find it online. I'll put a link down in the comments there. But in the future, I'd like to do more sketchbook tours in between more tutorials. Thanks for being here, and honestly, let me know what you think of this, and let me know if you're interested in a book like, a project like this, or if you'd like to look at any one of these individual tiny books and have me create a tutorial on how to make an envelope book, for example, or an accordion book, or a flag book. These are all kind of fun little bookbinding processes that I very much enjoy doing. Again, thanks, and I hope to see you next week. I'm going to do a weekly video, so I'm looking forward to building more a community. Make sure to hit the like button and subscribe, and I will see you next week.